Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, how is everyone? My apologies for being late. Hello, Justice Jayne. Hi, Tammie. Hi, Yasmin. Markar, Taterbug. Always good to see everyone. Boy, do I have a show to talk for you today. Kind of incredible, this innocence fraud documentary coming up on ID Discovery, which has a history of making these kinds of innocence fraud documentaries. And it is a doozer. I am going to, hold on one second. Let me just make sure I can pull up what I need to pull up today. Just kind of incredible that the woman Terry Dunn Muir, who's behind it, of Unsolved Productions, worked on Unsolved Mysteries and Innocence Fraud Watch. I'm just gonna breeze by her excellent blog on Terry Dunn Muir and her talking out of both sides of her mouth, because of course, you know, the whole point of Unsolved Mysteries is to have an unsolved mystery. You know, she seemed to know very early on that it's not much of a story. Right person accused, right person convicted. And she's embedded herself with the defense and talked to a whole bunch of YouTubers too, in addition. So it looks like it's going to be completely from Karen Reed's point of view. They're not going to correct the record, because to correct the record would be to give up a whole lot of do-re-mi and to really do the right thing and not push this innocence fraud of Karen Reed. The money in this story is on the innocence fraud side of the story, is in the Karen Reed conspiracy, in the, I think it's really a continuation of the war on the police and the war on our justice system that the progressive, they call themselves progressive, restorative justice movement, they call themselves. I'd call them pro-criminal, pro-killer movement has really pushed out. So all of these things work let me quote Hank Brennan, have a symbiotic relationship. So the documentaries push forward the fraud, and help cement in the public's mind that they're getting the real story, which is the innocence fraud story. It's not real at all. And that enrages the public. The public pushes pressure on our court system. And unfortunately, our court system does not work in a vacuum. It should, but it really doesn't. And it will buckle to public pressure, and especially public pressure with, these organizations that I talk about, the Innocence Projects, the ACLU, just the smaller groups. All together, it's a multi-billion-dollar movement, and they have endless resources to push forward for these, either to undo a conviction or to make sure that a conviction never happens. And really, the motivation for Karen Reed's innocence fraud campaign starting pre-trial was to get the Commonwealth, and that includes starting the federal investigation, to get the Commonwealth to drop the case before she ever had to go to trial. So basically cement in the public's mind that this was somehow a wild goose chase, a tunnel vision investigation, untrustworthy investigation, that they honed in on Karen Reed, why they would want to frame the adjunct college professor. There's still no answer. But basically, no one likes Karen Reed. They framed her to protect and keep intact a blue wall of silence. And flourishes have been added. And it's a constantly moving target. So what I mean by that is, as you saw in the opening, when asked who did it, first we are supposed to all know who did it. And now no one knows who did it. And they move from person to person. It's not for them to solve. It could be this person. It could be that person. Someone was on the phone that night, moving cars. It's suspicious. I mean, it's kind of a joke. I mean, nothing as suspicious as Karen Reed placing herself at the scene of the crime, people seeing her at the scene of the crime, pieces of her taillight embedded in John O'Keefe's shirt, her car data. Her car was going 24 miles an hour in reverse, hit something, never once touching the brake, with her foot 75% down on the gas pedal. And she admits she was angry. So we're going to look at or listen to some of the audio from what ID Discovery is putting out. And of course, this comes right at the foot of the gag order. So I was asked in the comments section, well, can this ID Discovery mockumentary, Spinal Tap-like mockumentary, air because of the gag order? Now, because there's, having embedded themselves with the defense, there's lots of comments from Elizabeth Little, David Yannetti, Alan Jackson. Those are all Karen Reed's lawyers, are all talking through it. Now that they've been gagged, can this go forward? Of course it can, because we have very strong First Amendment in this country. And these statements were all made pre-gag order. So again, it's another ruling by Cannone, too little, too late. And never mind poisoning the jury pool with this, but okay. So let's take a look at the woman who's behind this. Terry Dunn Muir. This is Innocence Fraud Watch. The link is in the description of this episode. Terry Dunn Muir of Unsolved Productions, Inc. and her You Can't Just Tell the Story of the Defense Without Telling the Story of the Prosecution. Deception. So this is a common tactic in innocence fraud material, pretending that they aren't picking sides. And I don't want to use the word bias because we all have biases. It doesn't mean you're unfair. But this is a production meant to further Karen Reed's narrative. And you can tell by the few things that they put out. We'll listen to some of the audio of that. Let's have the viewers not forget there's someone, a wonderful man who's dead in some mysterious way. Terry Dunn Muir finds this mysterious. She's, of course, not going to give John O'Keefe a name. She picked the revolting title, A Body in the Snow. I wonder how she would feel if her family member were reduced to the title, A Body in the Snow. Karen Reed on Trial. That's the title. Hold on one second. Terry Dunn Muir, the producer and director of the TV show A Body in the Snow, the Karen Reed Trial. I mean, is that not the most disgusting title? Most re-victimizing of the victim's family title of a true crime piece of media you've seen in a long time? How callous and insensitive can you get? You can't just tell the story of the defense without telling the story of the prosecution. But there is no evidence that Terry Dunn Muir ever spoke directly to anyone from the prosecution team involved in prosecuting Karen Reed, or indeed with any of the state troopers involved with the investigation, including Lieutenant Brian Tully or Trooper Michael Proctor, according to someone called Lauren Conlon, aka Pop Crime TV. Included in the TV show are the following people: Brendan Kane, John Jackson, Tara Kerrigan, Christina Rex, Ted Daniel, Jennifer Coffindaffer, Kevin Lenahan from Yellow Cottage Tales, Sue O'Connell, John Silvera, Karen Reed's old buddy, Richie Koa, aka Microdots, Nick Rocco, Janet Reed, William Reed, Nathan Reed. Apparently, innocence fraudster Brian Bardsley, a.k.a. LTL Media, and Mike Crawford, a.k.a. The Young Jerks, were also interviewed for the TV show. In a now deleted post on X, Mike Crawford stated on March 14, 2025, wait, they included Kevin, but not LTL and me, who they interviewed multiple times? What a joke. So much for, quote, we decided not to use the footage of the YouTubers. Okay. And here's LTL Media. I am beyond humbled at this moment, sitting in with Karen Reed's team during the and supporters, as that's how it's written, team during the and supporters, as court resumed today, was a true honor. Meeting Karen's parents, spending time with her team, and finally meeting Karen herself. Oh, isn't it such a great day when you can meet an accused killer? Isn't it? Accused cop killer. Doesn't that always make your day? Were blessings beyond words. The attentiveness of her team towards this case is indescribable. Alan Jackson shared with me that without the incredible support from around the world, the tone of this case would be vastly different. This definitely was a life-changing experience and a huge moment for my channel. I am committed to standing and fighting alongside Karen Reed because she is unquestionably factually innocent. We're just not sure what those facts are. They change from day to day. It's what we're calling a fact. And I'm sure Terry flipped the switch, says Nick Rocco. She was so nice while filming, then screwed everyone over. Typical producer. State of mind. Terry Dunn-Muir also stated there were so many points to cover. It will be interesting to see if Terry Dunn-Muir covered the highly significant point about John O'Keefe's state of mind and how he was said to be annoyed with Karen Reed when he was in C.F. McCarthy's pub because of Karen's tale about Richie, her plumber. So does everyone know what that's about? So that's their last conversation on text message before they met that night. Karen was late meeting him because she said she had a plumber over fixing her hot water issue. And John O'Keefe told his friend, Michael Camerano, that he was annoyed that Karen Reed didn't ask her to fix her plumbing, and she had a plumber over at the evening hours of Friday night. Listen to some of the clips. So this is some of the clips from the interview from Laura Conlon's show. We're going to have to...
Watch this before drinking plant-based
And
milks.
I'll try to skip through this.
Protein notes almost exactly.
This incredible product
One
dissolves
more.
oven grease and stubborn mold in seconds
These ads
without
are
any
so-
scrubbing.
aren't they so
Take any
annoying?
dirty
Okay,
People that were
yeah.
in the docu-series commenting and who are, you know, part of the family and friends and who were commentators. So you had Christina Rex, Ted Daniel, Jennifer Coffindaffer, you had Yellow Cottage Tales, Kevin something, you had Sue O'Connell. And Sue O'Connell, I think she's been accused. It's funny, everybody seems to get accused of being a certain way from both sides. But in my opinion, Sue O'Connell, it's not that she seemed pro-Karen. It's more that she did a really...
She calls it the Canton cover-up. That's the name of her coverage. It's hard to tell. Apparently, Laura... Is her name Lauren or Laura? Lauren Conlon here. Conlon, excuse me. Maybe I'll call her Laura something. Where she calls Kevin Lenahan. Kevin something. She seems to have trouble she can't infer Sue O'Connell's position. Everyone else figured that out pretty quickly, that she was on team Karen Reed overtly, not trying to hide it.
really good job of pointing out all of just the ridiculousness with the investigation, with law enforcement, and just some of the...
So pointing out the ridiculousness of the investigation is what so many innocence fraud campaigns do. They pick out minute details like the solo cups instead of saying, well, that was a rather inventive way of preserving evidence in a nor'easter. They say, oh, that's a terrible investigation. They look at the mirrored Sallyport video that it was set to be recorded that way a month before and say, oh, you can't trust it because it's a mirror image. So apparently if we're all looking at ourselves in the mirror in the morning, it's not an accurate portrayal of the way we look. I mean, they like to do this tunnel vision investigation, sloppy police work. They like to throw the police under the bus. Always popular.
The mysteries and the holes that we've seen in this case. There also was John's friend Brendan. Oh my gosh! And there's one point where Brendan cries. It's like it's so sad. I don't think in any other documentary that I've seen or any other.
He's never cried before, guys, because it's so sad. Yeah, like did it not occur to Lauren that the ripples of a murder run deep, and that no one's ever quite the same again who loved John O'Keefe, that they have been sentenced to a life sentence of grief thanks to Karen Reed? But there's going to be some victim blaming. They're going to do quite shortly. Stay tuned for that.
2020 Dateline, Fox Nation. He hasn't cried, and he cried. And he says something like he had to Google hypothermia. Oh my gosh, it was so sad. Just to sort of make himself feel better about the way that his friend died, that his friend wasn't in any pain, hopefully. So that was all.
You know what? There's no way to make yourself feel better about the way that your friend died when your friend's murdered. You can feel a little bit comforted, but not better. There's no getting better. There's no getting better. It's a wound that does not heal.
It's awful. And then they have Karen's friend, John. He's only in it for I guess the people on Karen's side, besides Karen, Yannetti, Jackson, Little, besides them, they really only have her friend John for I feel like it was.
It's almost as if Karen Reed doesn't have many friends. We've never heard from her ex-boyfriends, and she's rumored to have set one of their cars on fire, and another one threatened another one with a knife, but those remain rumors. There have been no proof has been forthcoming. So I can't say for sure that it may be untrue.
One sentence, maybe. They have microdots, Richie. And again, Richie only said maybe one or two things. They had Nick Rocco, one line, maybe. So they didn't, and again, maybe I'm wrong, but from when I remember, it wasn't much of them. I definitely remember seeing Coffin Daffer and Yellow Cottage Tales a lot more. But I would say storytelling perspective and commentary, it really is a lot of Sue, Christina, and Ted. Definitely. They might have Karen's brother for half a second talking, her parents for half a second. But yeah,
Sue O'Connell, Ted Daniel, who's totally on Team Karen Reed. And he's showed up in his pink shirt, the Karen Reed supporter color, on the first day of the trial. And Christina Rex. I think a lot of these people also have signed off, right, on Gretchen Voss's Netflix documentary, and are not allowed, and are by contract not allowed to give interviews. I had one guest. He was in Making a Murderer, and they, was getting threatened with that same violation of contract when they were speaking out of. They had switched sides from supporting Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey to realizing their, how about factual guilt? We'll put it that way. So yeah, I just think that the family, the O'Keefe family, should be giving interviews as a family. And I don't think Netflix would I don't think they would like the optics of suing the victim's family for violation of contract. I think Karen Reed has pushed this, given so many interviews, and pushed this innocence fraud narrative so far. And right now, the momentum is with the Commonwealth on the back of the ARCA revelations that they were not paid. And it's I feel like we're right at right on the cliff of the precipice of the federal investigation being exposed. Now, we know Yannetti and Karen Reed started it, but how and why the feds went along with it and what they spent on it. I mean, what was agreed upon, that has not really been exposed yet. That's really the next frontier in this story. Not that I think it's hugely important. I think all you need to know is that Karen Reed and David Yannetti started it. But I certainly would be illuminating.
A lot of it is Karen in her own words. And I guess I just don't know if she's going to be happy with what she said. I don't. Going from the drink to the judge, I don't know. And so Aiden and Yannetti aren't in it. Okay, so yeah, no, Aiden, they have Turtle Boy footage and they have Yannetti footage. I guess maybe you're right. Maybe Yannetti, I can't remember. Alan Jackson definitely does he does commentary, so does Little, definitely. So maybe Yannetti doesn't. Maybe I'm
Oh, there's definitely some Yannetti commentary in the trailer that I saw, and I'll let you listen to in a second.
But he's in it because they have War Room commentary, but maybe he just doesn't do any direct commentary. But Yannetti is definitely in it. Let me see. They also, they go through all of the, I guess, the drama that we saw in the courtroom, but just not really outside of the courtroom, I guess. They let me think. They go through Dr. Russell, they go through ARCA, they go through, they kind of remind you of Dr. Scortibello, which, so yeah, I guess they do a good job of showing the I guess, the holes in the case, because there are many holes, but they focus on a couple things that I kind of.
The holes in the case? Does Lauren think that Dr. Marie Russell is anything but a hired gun in this case? I mean, the holes in this case, they show you a paid ARCA, paid people who were paid to come up with an alternate theory with all evidence given to them by the defense. Anybody would a refresher on when Marie Russell was asked by Hank Brennan if she knew that John O'Keefe had Karen Reed's taillight pieces embedded in his shirt? And she said she didn't know. She hadn't heard that. The first time she heard that was just now, just when he told her in asking the question.
Kind of forgot about. Like they said, and I kind of forgot about this. They said that tiny fragments of the taillight was found in John's clothes. And I didn't remember that exactly. I remembered the hair.
Really? It didn't really, with all of Karen Reed's innocence fraud campaign, that factoid didn't stick in your brain. You weren't pointed elsewhere to dog bites and conspiracies and shifting alternative suspects and all that. You didn't really remember some of the salient evidence. That's always the point of a innocence fraud campaign, in why they blow up the minutia. So if you ask someone on the streets just vaguely following this case, they talk about dog bites, they talk about solo cups, they talk about unreliable footage from the Sally Port, Karen Reed having a just as believable story for how she broke her taillight. And they would forget the really important pieces of evidence, like the smashed to smithereens taillight, Karen Reed's car data, Karen Reed's own statements, Karen Reed's shifting defense, which went from it was a tragic accident and she loved him, to I didn't love him and it was a conspiracy. And I was really angry that night.
On the taillight, which they talk about being like, yeah, that's kind of weird. I think maybe Ted Daniels or Sue O'Connell or somebody was like, yeah, it's strange that it stayed on the taillight for 60 miles, whatever. But when it came to the fragments of the taillight, or not the fragments, but just like, I guess his DNA was on the taillight, they kind of try to explain it and say, well, John and Karen were dating. This was her car. So yeah, I mean, it was the
right. Of course, his hair is going to be on the back of her car, and of course, he used her taillight as a pillow every night. Every night, he just sort of like rubbed his face and just like, he'd get home from a hard day at work, on the job, as a police officer. He liked to rest his head on the taillight. What? That's clearly a plausible story.
The way that they presented the evidence, they did try to have the other side's argument, but I guess you could tell where they wanted to make one argument more powerful than the other.
Oh, really? Really? Isn't that shocking? They wanted to make the conspiracy more powerful. All right, let's just go on. I'm going to move on. It's just, so here is Terry Dunn Muir from Unsolved Productions. Here's a little bit of her interview.
This incredible product dissolves oven grease and stubborn mold in seconds without any scrubbing. Take any dirty...
If you think what happened in California was bad, be prepared if you live in any of these cities.
Mm-hmm.
Has Karen and her team, have they seen this documentary ahead of the release on March 17th?
No, they have not seen the documentary at all.
So whenever someone says at all, you just say, no, they hadn't seen it. They haven't seen the documentary at all. So that's when I knew that they've seen significant parts of it. They haven't seen it at all. Odd.
Very, very early on, we showed them just a very rough clip of about 5 minutes of footage that we had cut together just so they could see what they looked like on camera. But
I don't believe this. I don't believe this. I think they've seen more than 5 minutes. Karen Reed wants to know what she looks like on camera. She doesn't know. David Yannetti doesn't know what he looks like on camera. Really?
Other than that, they have not screened the series.
Wow. Okay. So they didn't need any type of let us sign off on this before you air it privileges or anything like that.
No, they didn't ask for that.
No, they already knew that we were sold on their story. Somehow Karen Reed knows where to go for all the softball interviews. She's not begging to come on this show. Strange, isn't it?
They didn't ask for that? Wow, I'm shocked. Okay, that's interesting. So when you were putting this together and you were filming this, did you have any sort of opinion as to what happened, just based on your own research?
What we did is we really wanted to approach this in a very unbiased, very objective way. We wanted to tell both sides of the story. It was Karen and her attorney, Alan Jackson, who brought us in. They actually invited us to do this film about the pretrial and the trial. But you can't just tell the story of the defense.
Right. You can't just tell the story because we have to add a little mystery. Well, this is very much like the staircase that embedded themselves with the defense team. And what did you get with that? The staircase. Very important pieces of evidence left out of the staircase. There's how many episodes are there in that series? A ton. But what it does is it's telling the story through Karen Reed's eyes. Look at the title. A Body in the Snow. John O'Keefe doesn't even get isn't even humanized. He's reduced to a thing. And it's Karen Reed's story and Karen Reed's fight, and they knew where to go. You don't think that these lawyers invited this team and they're going to make a film showing Karen Reed's guilt, overwhelming case of guilt, that they're going to get hired again by another, right? Have this kind of unprecedented access. So my question is this is my working theory, is that Gretchen Voss was also invited by Karen Reed's defense team to write a story about her case and came up with a very similar Karen Reed's narrative, Karen Reed's fight, Karen Reed, it's dividing a town. It's the biggest thing that's ever hit Massachusetts. So propaganda for Karen Reed. This is a ho-hum tale of overwhelming guilt of a dangerous psychopathic woman who finally did the final discard after coercively controlling her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, and then proceeded to blame everyone else for her own crime to avoid responsibility. Who's going to tell that story?
Without telling the story of the prosecution. So we really had to take out, there's so much content. This is such a complicated case. There's hard evidence, and then there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, and then there's just a lot of speculation around this case. So we had...
There's no speculation. There's no speculation from the Commonwealth. There's no defense. Look at her defense. She couldn't develop a third-party culprit in court. All of her defense has been done in the media because she couldn't do it in court. There are no rules to lying to a reporter. I mean, it should raise an eyebrow that Karen Reed gives tons and tons of interviews. She loves to talk, but only outside of court, never on the stand. Wouldn't you, as an innocent person, be dying to tell your story? And I know the jurors can't look at that as incriminating, but we're not jurors. I think as a human being, it's fascinating that she's given so many interviews, dying to talk, dying to tell her story, dying to get sunlight, right? Her sunlight, which is really just her obscuring of the truth on the facts of the case. I think this is this is reminiscent of ARCA. I'm getting the same feeling with the ARCA testimony as I'm getting with this interview with Terry Dunn-Muir. I wanted to make sure I got her name right. Dunn-Muir, okay.
We're not counting the trial footage. We have over 250 hours of footage that we shot in the war room, in their hotel room, in the car, in a lot of interview footage. So we had to sift through that and make the most balanced presentation we could of what the prosecution's main points were and what the defense's main points were.
Okay, so you attended most of the first trial.
We did not actually attend the trial. We had a feed coming off of the camera that was in the courtroom, and we recorded that feed. So that's how we got our footage of the trial. Usually we would film with them in the morning on the way to the courthouse, and then while they were in the trial, we'd either be listening outside or we'd be doing interviews with other people that were involved in the case.
They didn't even attend the trial, and they're there. They could have gotten in. And everyone will tell you it's very different watching a case on TV and actually being it was more important for them to be interviewing microdots and whoever else than to actually attend the trial. Right. I don't want to belabor this point, but about 2 more minutes, and then we'll look at that actual, or listen to the actual teasers.
Understood. I mean, when I watched this, and look, I'll be honest. I thought that there was a lot that the state did not prove in the first trial. I was kind of
shocker. Isn't it shocker that Terry Dunn-Muir didn't want to come on my show and talk about this? It's shocker. She's going right to a Karen reader. I thought they didn't prove their case, but I didn't really remember the salient points. Like, it just kind of went right over my head. The pieces of Karen Reed's taillight and John O'Keefe's shirt. How do these people watch these trials? They all say, what trial are you watching? Well, I'm going to ask the same question. What trial was she watching?
kind of like, wow, when I saw, I mean, for me, it was Arca. It was Dr. Scorti-Bello. It was a lot of this, like, well, wait, this just doesn't make sense. But I'm not necessarily buying into a conspiracy either. But I'm kind of like, I don't necessarily know.
Boy, yeah. And what do you think of Arca now? No mention of Arca now that we know that they're hired guns for the defense. Has Lauren Conlon never heard of a hired gun for the defense? Apparently not. Anyway, if you want to watch, the link of this blog is in the description of this video. If you want to watch the entire clips, feel free. It's just, there's only so much I can take. But the right, Arca, right, they were cheaters. And she's like, it was Arca for me. Is it Arca still for you, Lauren? That's what I want to know. All right, here we go. So let me pull in some video that, I mean, it's the audio from the teaser, but I added it in my own video. We can examine some of this, what they're putting out into the public domain to advertise the ID Discovery Spinal Tap like mockumentary of the Karen Reed case. Wait, hold on. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Actually, I might need to take a break. I'm just not sure where this... All right. Yeah, let me take a break. And I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right. This is like one of these like nightmare scenarios that you that you have when you're doing a live show. So it just may take me just a little bit longer. Oh Lord. I just have to re-download these. It should take just a few seconds. So thank you for your patience. Oh, it's always something new when you're talking about Karen Read Live. So if you remember, and I've noticed on X or Twitter that this is being revived, that there was a police officer. We talked about this last time, and this comes up in the ID discovery, that there was basically a whistleblower that came to Yanetti's office and told him that John O'Keefe was beat up in the house that night. And when Aiden Turtleboy Carney finally interviewed him, he's like, "Where did I hear about this conspiracy? I heard it from you guys." Meaning it came from Karen Read's head to right to Yannetti. So, but it seems to be revived, and it's interesting or compelling, or it should make someone like Lauren Conlon raise an eyebrow in this ID discovery teaser for this new mockumentary they have coming out. Yannetti says, well, I thought that I didn't know what to think, because they have to think of a reason why Yannetti already argued to the court at Karen Read's first arraignment that it was a tragic accident and that she was not intentional, and she loved John O'Keefe, and she had all these health issues, including a brain tumor that we've never heard about again. And it wasn't until this whistleblower, but we couldn't use this whistleblower in court. So someone like Lauren Conlon should think, why couldn't they use this whistleblower in court? Testimony is evidence. If he has heard something, saw something, knows something, he should be able to be brought into court, but strangely not. So this was something that they were trying to push. Basically, Steve Scanlon was this whistleblower, and it was called the whistleblower, but really he was just a fan of Aiden Turtleboy Carney, reading what he wrote and believing it to be true. And when he finally talked to Yannetti, he didn't know anything, and he handed back the check. They were willing to hire him to tell this tale that he had read on Turtleboy's blog, but he's like being fairly more honest than most of the grifters who get on the free Karen Read side, handed the check back. But now they're using this again. So it does two things. It gives a reason as to why Karen Read legal strategy changed. And two, it makes it look like this was a real event, and that amongst people in the know, they know that this really happened behind closed doors. This vague conspiracy that ended the life of John O'Keefe. So take a listen to, this is Yannetti at peak innocence fraud.
The first time Karen was arrested, I remember going back to my holding back.
A guy named Mike. A guy named Mike. This is Steve Scanlon. Did he actually give the name Mike? I mean, does anyone know that? I think they're just mixing it up. This is often also a technique of innocence fraud. Just mix things up, confuse things so that people can't follow a straight line of the story.
Back, and I have a memory of sitting at my desk at home in my office. And, you know, he had a gravelly voice. And, you know, it was like a holy smokes moment because he said that perhaps someone else caused the death of John O'Keefe.
Very early
on. He said perhaps. He said, from reading Aidan Carney's blog, it looks like perhaps something else might have happened. Right from the brainchild of Karen Reed.
On in the case, it was just the fog of war, right? David didn't know what he was dealing with. He comes in on this case. He had never met Karen before. She's accused of hitting this guy, a cop, with her car, and he ends up dying. And David is standing there with his hands out going, I wonder what happened. I need some evidence. I don't have anything.
No, he had a lot of, right. He didn't have, that's a pretty stunning admission from the defense. They didn't have anything. All roads pointed to Karen Reed, says Alan Jackson. We didn't have anything except maybe it's an accident. Maybe she didn't mean to do it. But it's really hard to ignore the infotainment system beeping louder and louder and louder and louder and flashing louder and louder at you that you're going to hit something in your car. Of course, Karen Reed now says it was the howling wind. It was the band U2 playing on her stereo that just overwhelmed the earbuds that she couldn't see or hear. The flashing infotainment system telling her she was going to hit something. And after she hit John O'Keefe, she didn't get out and see how he was and call 911. Or even after she thought she struck something, she felt she struck something. It went through her body, through the car, through her body. The jolt of her car hitting something. Who does that? Who doesn't get out of their car and see the damage? She decided to just run to John O'Keefe's house, sneak in like a burglar, and wait till 4:30 in the morning, a little before 4:30 in the morning, to wake up John O'Keefe's niece and have her to start to call people. She didn't want to trace her tracks at the time because she wanted to make sure that he had learned his lesson, that he was either seriously injured or dead.
But then he got a call at his office, and this person said, in almost whispered tones, you need to look at the folks inside 34 Fairview. You need to look really hard at the homeowners. You need to look really hard at the occupants of the house. Something here is more than...
Do you hear the heartbeaty music behind him? You have to look really close at the owners of the house. Shemina Wright says the radio volume automatically decreases when you reverse. Is that true in the kind of Lexus that Karen Reed had? That's curious. I have to check that out. But I love the gravelly voice too. It's like it's like another Richard Nixon deep throat. We met in a he had a gravelly voice. We met in a parking garage, and he talked with him. He smoked a cigar, but I couldn't see him from behind the pillars of the parking garage. But he said something happened in that house. You got to check it out, Yannetti. Follow the money, Yannetti. Is that what he did? It's kind of an old reference, but come on. Watergate.
Meets the eye.
We didn't have any inkling that there might have been somebody else out there who did it. So, you know, it was a turning point. I called him into my office, and he came and sat with my investigator and me. And, you know, it didn't really go anywhere with him beyond that. It's not like he was a witness or that we could use him, but that tip was invaluable because it sent us in a different direction very early on in this investigation.
Had that tipster...
It sent us from Karen Reed's imagination. It sent us in a different direction. Now we had something. Now we couldn't argue it in court, but we could start an innocence fraud campaign and brainwash the public into believing it had some validity. I'm a lawyer. They're going to believe me. And me too, Alan Jackson. Look, we're both former prosecutors. What? We would lie to you? We would lie to you for our cop-killing client? Not us. And then we would start a federal investigation and lie about our federal witnesses that we paid, that we got a retainer for and paid? Not us. That we would meet with one of our witnesses in the school parking lot of the target of our pitchforky mob hate campaign cop, right? Remember Michael Proctor's wife worked in an elementary school. Apparently David Yannetti couldn't meet anywhere else. He couldn't meet Lucky Loughran, the colorblind and basically vision impaired plow driver. So he could basically put, my opinion, he rehearsed his evidence and told them what to say. Because they were planning on making him the Michael Proctor of this story, Lucky Loughran. It was really hit by a plow. I mean, this has gone through so many incarnations, this defense. Now it's Brian Higgins, and now we're back to Mike, the whistleblower. Again, we're back to that again.
Never provided that information. I'm not sure if we'd necessarily be here. Because initially David was saying something to the effect of it was a bad accident and she's not criminally liable. But then after this tipster, we start seeing the new defense, which is they're saying Karen Reed's been framed.
The people in the house that night included Brian Albert, the owner of the home, and Brian Higgins. Brian Albert.
So this is Elizabeth Little, if you don't recognize their voices. So we've heard from David Yannetti, we've heard from Alan Jackson. And isn't it curious that there's all these friends of John O'Keefe, and Karen Reed has the same people we've always seen. John Silvera, that guy seems like he would, almost like a devotee of Karen Reed, more than a friend. And now Elizabeth Little
is a Boston police officer. He's the head of a fugitive unit. Brian Higgins is a federal ATF agent and friends with the chief of police of the Canton Police Department. This all happened outside of the home of a Boston police officer. And so for the first 2 years of this case, we knew something wasn't right, and we were fighting tooth and nail to try to get access to cell phone data, electronic information that we knew was the key to this case. You can't prove a conspiracy by just asking tough questions of witnesses. You have to have the data to back that up.
They had no data. That's exactly what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to develop a third-party culprit by doing exactly that, asking tough questions of witnesses. But they found a sneaky way of getting people's private cell phones, like Michael Proctor's personal cell phone, by starting a federal investigation. Because listen to Alan Jackson, they had nothing. PK, thanks for the super sticker. Appreciate your support. They had nothing. They had a campaign. They had billboards and campaigns. And if the rumor's true, hired protesters. Rent a crowd.
One of the things that we've tried extraordinarily hard in this case to do is to uncover all of the electronic communications. How do you prove a conspiracy?
Except Karen Reed's electronic communications between herself and Aidan Carney. With that, she went on a plane to Sarasota, Florida, where Yanis Yannetti has a home, hid out. When she finally came back, she made the police wait 45 minutes outside her home before she handed over her 2 cell phones. And she's not working. What does she need 2 cell phones for? And all to talk to Aidan Turtleboy Carney on an encrypted app. Strangely, Karen Reed wanted everyone else's data, but didn't. The factually innocent Karen Reed, LOL, didn't want to give up her own. Isn't that odd? She's Facebook stalking people. We'll get into that.
You need to see people's phones. We live in the 21st century. That's how conspiracies are conducted.
Stupid me, I got involved with Sean on the go.
So this was the intermediary, Natalie Bernschneider-Wiki. And so before Karen Reed and Aidan were talking directly, she would convey messages back and forth. And they did, I think, here, I'll be a little bit of an armchair quarterback, but I wish they had asked her some more follow-up questions, stronger questions, delved deeper, because I think she only told about, it's just my feeling, a little bit of the truth in her role in Karen Reed's innocence fraud campaign and starting it and being an accomplice to this witness harassment campaign and really harassment campaign of the family too. But here she talks about how Karen Reed stalked witnesses' Facebook and looked for pictures and liked to stir the pot. And when she found a picture of Steve Scanlon, she wanted one of her minions to put it out there, who's Steve Scanlon, to get basically a whisper campaign going. And basically get all the fingers pointing attention from her guilt pointed elsewhere. Oh no, did my computer just freeze up? Hold on one second. It did. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. All right, we have it. Finally. Finally. Thanks for your patience.
The first time Karen.
Okay, so we were getting into Natalie Wawicki, Bernschneider Wawicki, talking about Karen Reed stalking people's Facebook posts. So this is an interview she did as a cooperating witness, basically, so that she wouldn't get charged with witness harassment.
So run that through me again. How?
So let's start from the beginning.
And then see if you've seen the Scanlon tape.
Okay, let's get back.
Okay, so we went on Scanlon's. Stupid me, I got involved with Sean on the golf. And then also with Scanlon, the reason why you're going to get all these screenshots is Karen and I went on Scanlon's Facebook page before Aiden. Okay, so we went on Scanlon's Facebook page and we did screenshots of every single photo he had and kept them because we knew that Karen was going to have Erica Davis go on the chat of Aiden's YouTube channel and just write, "Who's Steven Scanlon?"
Right. So she's going to announce who's Steven Scanlon to people who are desperately trying to solve a solved crime, meaning she did it. But get it out there that this Steve or Mike, depending if you're David Yannetti or Alan Jackson, they like to call him Mike. Get it out there that he may have some information. Who's Steve Scanlon? Get it out there. And they went to his Facebook page and took all the pictures of Steve Scanlon they could. And that's the way Karen Reed has operated through this entire pre-trial. That's her war room. When she talks about the war room, Facebook is her territory. Dean Walker, thanks so much for the super sticker. So nice to see you. Hope your grandbaby is doing well.
And that's why when you see, if you've seen the Scanlon tape, how my name pops up, it's because Aiden texts me something like, "Who wrote Steven Scanlon?" on my text. And then I said, "Erica Davis." And then it was because Karen told me, "Hey, can you text Erica Davis and tell her to just write, 'Who is Steven Scanlon?'" Because she wanted to stir the pot. And then Aiden called Steven and recorded it. And then Aiden was like, "Oh my gosh, look what I have." And he set it as a private link. So you could only watch that. You couldn't go on his page and find it. It was a very private link.
So run that through me again, how Aiden became aware of Scanlon. It was the first time that he heard of it was on the comments on the YouTube Live?
No, Karen told us that that's how she put the story together, because that morning she was so confused and so hungover.
Yeah, but how'd she get it? How'd she get who Scanlon was?
Because he went to Yannetti's office. And Scanlon said, like, this, there's something wrong with the story. They were beat up in the house. Somebody told me that he was beat up in the house.
Somebody told me. I read it. So then when he finally, Turtle Boy finally gets his moment to ask who told him, how is the blue wall of silence finally broken? He's like, I read it from you. I mean, this is, and is ID Discovery going to correct any of this? Is ID Discovery going to play any of this? Or they're just going to just just let Alan Jackson and David Yannetti lie to the public uncorrected. Because they have to make it an unsolved mystery.
But then Karen, knowing to put the out on social media, she directed you or to ask who is the Scanlon?
To scare Scanlon.
Why would Karen want to scare Scanlon?
Hopefully have him talk. I don't know.
And what was the why beforehand capture all his pictures?
Because Karen did that, especially with that's how she was able to get all the pictures of the Alberts and the McCabe's and all those kids, and show that Proctor's mom wrote to Chris Albert, "You guys are my second family." So Karen is heavily on Facebook and studies Facebook like no other. And so that was a very big tool for her.
She studies Facebook like no other. It's also a way to intimidate and embarrass people. No one wants their life on parade for a bunch of, there's a lot of unhinged, unwell people who follow true crime cases and throw out their private life to. It was her way of saying, Scanlon, play ball or else, you're going to be accused of being part of this conspiracy too.
To realize that these folks really do know each other.
But it seems like Scanlon was important to her. So, but capturing Facebook pictures she could use against him?
I don't know.
No? Okay.
We just did it. There was no rhyme or reason or.
There was no rhyme or reason. Who does something for no rhyme or reason? She knew exactly why she was doing it, and she's just not being honest there in my view. That's my view of it. Doesn't mean it's not a fact. It's just my view. That was the time to press her. What do you mean you did something for no rhyme or reason? What did Karen Reed tell you her reason was for getting all these Facebook pictures? How did she say that she was going to use them? Didn't you ask her when you're getting copies of everything on his private Facebook? What are we going to do with this?
It was let's just get all his pictures, as many as we can, before they're gone, before he locks his page or before he deletes it. Because I guess that's what happened with McCabe and Proctor, is they ended up locking their pages or limiting it, and not making it a public page.
In the Boston Police Department.
So shockingly, when other people who knew about Karen Reed's guilt saw what was happening to other people who also had knowledge of Karen Reed's guilt, that their privacy was being invaded and their private pictures were being blasted all over by Karen Reed and Karen Reed's minions. Strangely, Proctor, etc., put their Facebook on private. So we got to get to the pictures before they put them on private. So here's Turtle Boy's big moment. He's finally got a one-to-one can break the real story of this conspiracy. This is how this goes. It's unintentionally hilarious. I never am less amused. I've watched this so many times, and I'm never less amused when I get to the end of this interview with Steve Scanlon, the deep throat of the Karen Reed case.
I worked with him, just for a couple of years. Okay. Are you still friends with him? You know what? Since this whole thing took place, I'll be honest with you, if I saw him prior to this whole thing, I'd see him maybe once every, 5 years. Okay. If I was at a road race or something like that, I'd run into him. It wasn't like we called each other or anything like that. But then, prior to this, I haven't talked to him when this whole thing started. No.
Okay.
Because I'll be honest with you, and I'm an honest person. This thing stinks.
What, the Karen Reed thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
tell me about
in
it.
my own view, listen, in my own view, initially when this whole thing took place, no one saw an autopsy photo. No one saw anything. You read about it, he had a scrape on his arm, a bump in his head, or whatever. Then when you did it, you opened everyone's eyes, because I was like, this dude got beat up.
Right.
It appeared he got beat up. And that's all. I mean, I've been just following you, and when you're out and about, everybody in the world's talking about it.
Yeah, that is true. When you go to this area in Massachusetts, it's like the whole state of Massachusetts is obsessed with it. My bestie girlfriend came back from Massachusetts who has no interest in true crime at all or anything that I'm talking about on my channel. She's like, the whole state is obsessed with this case. And this is what it's done. This is what Karen Reed and her lawyers using the media have done. They've got people who know the way criminals operate, who know the criminal mind, who know what psychopaths are, and who aren't inclined to join the campaign of a cop killer, completely convinced that something doesn't smell right and dying to join in.
Everybody has the same point of view you have.
Oh, I know.
It is what it is.
But people that are close to you have told me, and that's how I got your name, that...
Not everyone. I was out there early going, I mean, we were learning together. There really wasn't, there was some information from the Commonwealth, but it was so overpowered by Karen Reed's innocence fraud campaign and this federal investigation that why would there be a federal investigation? But I was super skeptical why anyone who was innocent would let a witness harassment campaign go on without calling off the dogs, without saying, hey, guys, don't harass the witnesses in this case. We need, why would she want to interfere with her right to a fair trial, right? And why would she want anyone else to be harassed, being an innocent woman falsely accused? Why would she want to falsely accuse someone else, knowing how bad that must feel, right? Didn't make any sense. Looks like someone who's guilty pointing fingers elsewhere, which is why Hank Brennan aims, and hopefully Judge Canoni will say, okay, to get Karen Reed's communications between Aidan Carney and Karen Reed. And Aidan Carney's coming in as a witness in this case. Feels very positive, the way this is going. I don't know. I worry about the jury most of all. Because it doesn't matter how great Hank Brennan is, how strong the witnesses are. I feel that Lally was really judged the way we judge an actor. When I was a juror, the judge made every juror, including myself, promise that we would not hold the lawyers by the same standards as we do on TV, that they're not TV lawyers, meaning Law and Order. She asked us if we'd seen Law and Order. She's like, you won't hold them for the standards, that they're not Hollywood actors. So Lally was not a Hollywood actor. But boy, did he present a very compelling, logical case. And I think had there not been turtle riders on the jury, and had there not been an innocence fraud campaign, it would have been an easy conviction.
You've known this was a beating for quite some time, and that you might have contacted the defense about it. Is that true?
That's correct. What I did was, here's what I did. When this whole thing took place, I said, this thing stinks.
Yeah.
Okay? An innocent person should not be blamed for something if they didn't do it.
Right.
And that's what I stand for.
Right.
So
Now,
I reached out to Karen Reed.
You've spoken to Karen Reed?
No, I have not. I reached out to her on Messenger.
Okay.
This was like a year or so, a long time ago, whenever, I don't know when it was.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, look, I'm reading this stuff, I'm looking at it. I didn't, if you need help with this, I'll give you.
So if you're just tuning in, we are listening to a conversation between Steve Scanlon, who's in law enforcement, who was basically a follower of Aidan Carney's Turtle Boy blog. And he was reading all this information about a conspiracy and how John O'Keefe is beat up in the house. And he was so convinced by what he read, he even went to talk to David Yannetti, knowing some of the characters in this vaguely, And when they asked him what he knew, and this is the conversation between him and Turtle Boy, how he knew it. He said, I read it on your blog. And David Yannetti wrote him a check, and he handed it as a retainer, and he handed it right back. So this is the great reveal where Turtle Boy finally gets to talk to this great source of the conspiracy, because it all came from Karen Reed's head with the help of her lawyers. And he says, I learned it from you, Aidan. So, but it's still being presented in the ID Discovery mockumentary, Spinal Tap-like mockumentary, true crime mockumentary. Monday, they called Steve Scanlon Mike, and that was the first time they ever thought. It wasn't that Turtle Boy had already written blog after blog and after blog, and this guy was reading it and came to him to talk to David Yannetti about it and handed him back the check. No, it's the first time they ever heard of a conspiracy was from Mike. They call it Steve Scanlon, the guy we're listening to now, Mike. And that's how it got blown open, how the real story, because when he first saw that the evidence against Karen Reed, it looked like an open and shut case of guilt. Strange how it did. Alan Jackson's like, we had nothing until Mike came along. But really what they mean is we had nothing until Karen Reed started putting out, with the help of her minions, her fake stories via Turtle Boy. And then we took those fake stories and we referenced them, meaning her lawyers referenced these fake stories that Aidan Turtle Boy Carney wrote in his blogs in our legal filings, as it's been reported as. And of course, the federal investigation helped, because that, you heard Elizabeth Little say, we desperately needed cell phone data. But hasn't really helped. The one expert they have, are they going to correct? Is the ID Discovery mockumentary going to tell us that the defense forensic computer expert, that they had to rewrite the Cellbrite program that he used to identify the 227 phone search? They had to rewrite it because he interpreted the data so wrongly, to prevent anyone else from making the same error. Celebrate had to rewrite their data thanks to him, his misreading of the data. Are they going to tell us that the real time was 6:23 and 6:24 a.m. of the house long to die in the cold search? In that there was nothing deleted from her phone, that the deletion was a way that your computer stores open browsers? They're going to tell us, is the ID discovery flick going to clear that up? Doubtful.
Hope for your charge. I met with the attorneys and then the attorney and the investigator. And when I met with them, I didn't know who they were looking at or what, you know what I mean? I didn't really know the focus of it. I didn't know the people involved, whatever. And when they did, I was like, I have to walk away from this. I'm sorry. It's a conflict. It is what it is. I wish I could, but I told them if I learned of anything, if I knew anything firsthand, they would know about it.
Okay, what made you decide to go to them? Just it didn't smell right?
No, I mean, the injuries. The
injuries, right. Had you seen the autopsy photos at the time?
I saw your stuff. I followed you one night. And I'll tell you.
Yeah, but didn't you go like last year sometime?
I didn't need to see autopsy photos. I was reading your blogs. What? I did not have to look at the actual evidence. I read Turtle Boy's blogs. I mean, if Marie Russell were truthful, this is what her testimony would sound like, too. What? Look at dog? No, I didn't have to look at the injuries. Turtle Boy, I read it in Turtle Boy. He said it was a dog. I have a hobby of being interested in police dogs, not pet German shepherds and their fights with other dogs, but never mind that. I was just reading Turtle Boy's blogs. I didn't need to look at anything. I didn't need to actually attend to the wounds. I was reading your stuff, Turtle Boy. Because she's a true crime fan. Don't forget the article written about her years ago described her as a true crime fan.
Before I wrote about this?
Yes. But that was only because they talked about swollen eyes, a cut on his arm, and I'm like, maybe he got hit by a plow, or maybe he got beat up because I think they said like he was missing a shirt or whatever it was. It looked like a fight.
Okay.
And whatever it was, it looked to me like it was a fight.
Did they ask you to sign an affidavit or anything?
No. It was just a simple talk.
Okay.
It was just a simple conversation. It was only my opinion. That's all it was.
Okay.
My opinion. They had a different opinion. Not a different opinion. They believed there was something happened.
Oh.
Okay.
Strangely, my opinion and their opinion was the same, but I couldn't be helpful to them because it was all stuff I read from the blog that was given to me. That from the information from Karen Reed's imagination. Oh my gosh. It's really like Abbott and Costello, who's on first, and this classic comedy routine we're listening to here.
As far as like a fight.
Okay.
Okay, and that was it, and then I left. That was it. We talked about my background, and how I knew Brian, how I knew other guys that we worked with, things like that. Very simple talk, and that was it.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, believe me, I'll call you clowns. If I learn anything firsthand, you're going to know about it too.
Yeah, I'm just...
And I only say that because if it wasn't for you, the fucking story would have never made it.
Right.
It would have been dead.
Can I ask you, how did you know Colin Albert was in the house?
Who?
How did you know Colin Albert was in the house?
Probably through you. I don't even know Colin Albert.
No, but did you tell the attorneys that Colin
Through you? No, I learned it from you. If you know what, I'm going to do my own private investigation. You probably went around to trying to get inside info, and he was probably laughed out of the room. He's like, you believe that nonsense? You believe that nonsense? Were you born yesterday? Steve? Some detective? Oh, my law. But you got to hand it to him. Marie Russell sits in front of John O'Keefe's grieving family and spouts her nonsense. And the source is the same source, in my opinion. Same source. I heard it from Turtle Boy. Meaning I heard it from Karen Reed. The accused psychopathic cop killer told me. So, but we're going to hear from her in a second. So this is the end of this.
Albert was in the house when you met with him?
Did I what?
Did you tell the attorneys that, or David Gannetti or whoever, when you didn't mention the name Colin Albert to them?
I didn't even know Colin Albert.
I didn't even know that guy. I didn't even know that. Oh, it's no less delicious second time around. So I'm wondering if I should leave it here for tonight, and tomorrow we can get into Karen Reed and her own words. Yeah, I think that might be. I think we've been going long enough. It's almost an hour and 40 minutes. We'll start fresh tomorrow at 6 p.m. Got Karen Reed's own words on this ID Discovery mockumentary. We'll deal with the rest tomorrow. Per usual, some doozies out of her mouth. And, keep talking, Karen Reed. I'm never disappointed that Karen Reed's giving another interview. Keep talking. Yeah, the second, third, fourth, fifth time around. Hey, Jude. Yeah, it's no less delicious. How many times have we played this? Steve Scanlon and Turtle Boy. But yeah, keep talking, Karen Reed. Keep talking, because it's all coming in. I would think that the reason Steve Scanlon's on the witness list, kind of buried the lead there, but he's on the witness list, is we're gonna hear about all this going on between himself and Karen Reed's legal team and Turtle Boy firsthand on the stand. So he's on the witness list. Steve Scanlon's on the witness list. Surprised Natalie Bernschneider were weak he's not on the witness list, but okay. Karen Reed's sister-in-law is on the witness list. So we haven't seen her in court, but we sure have seen her stare, mesmerized by Karen Reed's smash to smithereens taillight that morning of January 29th, 2022. So have a great night, everyone. Please help get the word out about innocence, fraud, and Karen Reed's guilt. You can support the channel by becoming a Patreon member. Buy me a coffee. Link is in the description of this episode. Best way to send me a donation is always by Venmo. Cut out the middleman. And please leave me a comment. I get so much out of your comments. Share this episode. And please, on your way out, please hit the thumbs up. See you tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks for listening.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system a clown. Innocence from hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, Jen, like John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet. John, you were my mark. My innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit yet.